So this Photoshop demonstration is about using the type tool, which can be very frustrating in some cases, and knowing exactly how it behaves is key to avoiding the frustration. So what I've done here for the demonstration is loaded in a photograph, and I'm going to put some type on it, and then I'm going to manipulate that type in a couple of different ways. So I've got my background layer here. So just a photograph, right? Nothing complex going on here. One photograph loaded. We're going to add some type to it. So we come over and we select the type tool, and then we can place our line of type wherever we want it to be. So we can come up here and we could type shadow. So we got a big purple word there now. Now if I want to add other text somewhere else, I can either use my cursor and I can, tab down and I can add, shadow again. I can go in and I can place my cursor and I can move it. Now, Photoshop considers all of these words to be one set of text, one layer of text. If I don't stay in that layer, if I don't, cursor down to make this second word, and let's just erase that for now. So we'll just select that and delete. If I want to make another set of words that are separate, maybe I want to manipulate them differently, or I want to use a different font or something like that, then what I would need to do is click somewhere else here on this image. And when I do that, and I'm in my text tool, it's going to set up a second layer. So each time you place your cursor somewhere and click, it makes a new text layer over here. So I could retype the word shadow, but unlike when I had done it just a moment ago, instead of being on this layer, it's now on this layer. And I can manipulate each of these two different text layers independently. Let's change this to just a different word. We're on reflection now. So we've got a text layer, and if I make another text layer, then this layer will cease to be layer 1 and it will be called reflection. And then if I click a third time somewhere else on the image, it'll make a third text layer. So each time you click and you move your cursor to a new spot, it makes a new text layer. So always be aware of that, because sometimes it can be very frustrating if you think you're working on one layer and in fact you're working on a different layer. You're telling it to do things and it's not doing it, and that leads to all kind of frustration. So we have got two text layers here, two words that are each on their own layer and can be manipulated differently. And I can do any number of things to these once I select them. But that's the thing that you've got to do first. Select the text that you want to work on. Now once it's selected like that, and all I did was put my cursor at the end of it, press down on the mouse and pull across, I've selected it and I can change things about it. I can change the font. Go to Avenir. So now I've got a different font here. I can change the size of the thickness of the letters themselves. Heavy, medium, light. Let's go light on this one for a moment. I can change the font size. I can make this really small. Now, these are the ones that come up as standard, 6 to 72 points. 72 points is relatively small on this image, but I can type in any size I want. Right? All I have to do is click up here and it selects the point size, and I can go for something really random, right? 112. And I hit return or enter, and it will change it to that point size. I can make it any size I want. So when I go back down here and click again within that text, it takes off the selection and I can see what my result looks like. I don't like that reflection in purple, so I'm going to change its color too. So I reselect it and I go over here and I want to go for a bright orange. So I'm going to select right there, and then when I go back and click again inside the selected text box, I can see what my new color looks like. I can even do really interesting things. You know, this is where it really comes down to understanding how Photoshop deals with text as compared to how it deals with images, and also as how text is dealt with in a word processing program, you know, like Word, or when you're writing an email or anything where you're typically using the keyboard. Most of your keyboard methods will work on a text layer. I can come in here and I can hit the space bar and I can put a space between them. I can put a space between each one if I want to. Right? Nothing different about that than if you were doing it in Microsoft Word. Right? So now I've got those all spaced out. I can put, 10 spaces in there, or I can delete that and, put periods or semicolons, or, just the same way I would in a word processing program. But let's say I want to do something really weird to one of these, and let's say I want to, like fill in the color but have a gradient. And to do that, I have got to do some changes to that particular layer. So let's go back up to our shadow here and click on it. Now, once I click on it, it automatically goes back to that layer because it knows, I want to work on this layer. There's already a text layer here, and it seems like I want to work on it, so it selects that. Now, I could try to put a gradient in here, and if I do, and I select it, and I go get my gradient tool. Actually, let's get the gradient tool there. It's going to say, no, you can't do that. Why? Well, problem is that you have got a mixture here of vector elements and of raster elements. And vector elements are based on lines and points, which your text is, and raster elements are based on pixels, like photographs, things that have, well, a lot of gradients, a lot of transitions between light and dark, and a lot of the details that we associate with photographs. So I can't mess with that right now. So I have to say, okay, so what can I do? Well, I've got this layer selected. I'm still on shadow. I can go up to layer here and I can tell it, okay, rasterize this layer. Now, once I do that, this is no longer a text layer. You can see that the T disappeared, and now it has a picture like any other layer. So what that means is that if I take that step, I can no longer manipulate this using the text tool. So I can't go and type in new letters and have them match. I can't add spaces. I can still do it down here on reflection because it's still a type layer. But on this one up here, it is now a picture of the word. But that does mean that I can do other things to it, which, can sometimes be kind of cool. So now it will let me use this gradient tool here. So I can go up here and say, I want this gradient to go, I want it to be orange and to go from dark to light, starting up here in this corner and down to this corner. And then when I let it go, took away my whole word. And the reason is because this is now an image layer instead of a text layer. It thinks I want to do it to the entire thing. So just like in every Photoshop process, if you want to manipulate a portion of it, you have to tell Photoshop what portion that is. And you do that by selecting it. That's how you're telling Photoshop what it is that you want to work on. So I don't want to do that. I mean, this is not what I was after. So let's undo that. We got our shadow back. How am I going to select this word? I mean, I could go around, I could take my, lasso tools, and I could go around and I could, trace them, and that would take quite a long time. Luckily, we have a magic wand tool, which is really cool, right here, and it is underneath the quick selection tool normally. So if you right click On the quick selection tool, it'll give you the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool will select anything that has uniformity. So if I click here, magic wand tool says this guy wants to select everything that's that color of purple that's touching this. So I click it and it selects the S. And I can go and I can do that to each letter. Now if I want to select them all, I'm going to have to hold down the shift key. So I select the first one, hold down the shift key, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So now on this layer, which is now an image layer, the only thing that's going to be affected if I add that gradient is the things inside this selection, which is our word shadow. So now I can go back to my gradient tool. I can grab up here or put the pen on the corner. I can actually put it outside, it doesn't even matter. I could start way up here and it would still work because all it's going to affect is what's selected. And I can pull across and there's my gradient inside the word. And so go back up to select, deselect, and now I've got that. However, I can no longer manipulate this as a word. This one down here, I still can. It's still a text layer. I'm still on the gradient tool, so it's saying no way, can't do that. So let's go back to the text tool, and I can go back in here, and I can, add some other things to it. I can still manipulate it all the ways that I could before. So, text tool can do really cool things. You can move text. Go up to your select tool and you can take this and you can put it anywhere you want. Right? We're still on that one layer. I can go and I can transform it. I can rotate that text if I want to. Takes it a second to kind of adjust so you can actually see what you've got. Turn it all the way completely vertical. And then I can come and I can get my move tool and I can move it back around over here if I want to. Or, where would be good for reflection? Maybe right here. I can do weird things with it. Like stretch it out. Kind of twist it. There's any numbers of things that you can do. If you don't like it, apply that transformation by hitting return. Go back and undo it. So as long as you understand how the type tool is thinking, you can do some very interesting things with it.